Well, we want to welcome back into the program Brian King, business attorney with offices in both Augusta and Atlanta. Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
So you do a little of that I-20 commute sometimes, huh?
Yeah, sometimes. Basically, yeah, just go there to meet with clients. So
yeah, well, in our previous segment, we talked about how to take an idea and to kind of get everything formalized and learn about cash flow and the kinds of advisors that you should have. And of course, our government has some mandates in terms of what you have to do to be legal. And so what are some other things that clients should think about?
Well, you need a business license to run your business. And so you'll want to get a business license in the county where your business is located. So, another thing that comes up a lot of times is if let's say you've got a business in Georgia and you want to operate in South Carolina, or you want to transact business in South Carolina. So what I'll do is I'll file a certificate of authority to do business in South Carolina for those businesses, and that'll be where the business in Georgia is going into South Carolina, going into the state to serve clients. That's where they would need that certificate of authority. If say people in North Augusta are coming over to Augusta to meet that business there, then they wouldn't need the certificate of authority in South Carolina.
Now, legally, what if you're not licensed? What happens?
Well, you could be fined.
Okay.
And that's typically what happens. So it's just business licenses are generally a money raiser for the community that they're in.
Gotcha.
So if you call if any business called the business license department and say, Augusta or wherever, they're going to say, yeah, you need a business license. And most of the time you do need one. I mean, now there are certain things, like if you're just holding real estate, and you're not leasing it out or anything, you're just holding real estate. That's not considered a business where you would actually need one. But most of the time you're going to need that business license.
Okay. Another thing that tends to be critically important, and I guess sometimes something you just have to do, is to insure your business. Why don't we kind of run through the different kinds of insurances and kind of the must-haves and maybe some that, you don't necessarily have to have.
Sure. So I typically recommend that clients get a commercial general liability policy for their businesses. And those are going to be exactly what it sounds like. It's a general policy that's going to cover most of the things that happen in your business. Now, I would recommend, you talk to your insurance broker and have them search for a policy that's going to fit your particular business, because they can be different. There's particular endorsements that could be on the policy and particular exclusions that could be there. So you want to make sure that what you think you're getting is actually covered. So just having that relationship with your insurance broker is going to be key there. So.
Now, with that, so if someone owns a building, let's say, and they have customers coming on there, is that the type of insurance that protects them? Yeah,
so a premises liability policy would be what you would want to. So it's going to cover slip and falls. Anybody gets hurt on the property. You have invitees that you're inviting onto your premises, and so you want to make sure that you're protected. What I usually recommend as well is that you have if you do own the property, is to own it in a separate LLC. Now, a lot of times people are just leasing the property from their landlord, and so they don't have that option. But
sure. And then I'm wondering, what are the rules and regulations for you to have workers' compensation? I mean, because it's for your employees.
Right. So you have to have workers' comp so in Georgia, if you have more than 3 workers for you, then
does that include yourself?
It can include yourself, but you can also file a form with the government that would exempt you from needing it. So if you are, so the owner doesn't actually have to take it.
Okay.
With the workers' comp, if you think about it, it's actually a pretty good protection for you. So if you have your workers on workers' comp, and they get hurt on the job, they're going to get that what the workers' comp provides for them, but it keeps you protected in the way that if they were to sue you for $20 million, they're only going to get what the workers' comp coverage provides.
Right.
So it does protect you as well.
I ask because we're bringing on a third person, including me. So that's real life for me. That's interesting. So I'll be speaking with my partner about that as well. Both of the two employees that I have or will have use their vehicle. One to make sales calls, and another one is, writing stories. Do I need to provide some kind of coverage for them?
Well, you may, because you want to talk with your insurance agent. But if you want to make sure that you do have coverage when they are when they're driving for the business. So you need to inform the insurance agent that, yes, my employees will be driving their vehicles in service of my company. And because the way that insurance companies usually work is they're looking for ways not to cover you. So you have to have it specifically covered to be able to have the right coverage that you need. So so you would want to inform your insurance agent that you are going to have your employees driving their own vehicles. So talk to your insurance agent about the coverage for your employees if they're going to be driving vehicles or their own vehicles or your vehicles in service of the company.
Now, umbrella policies are another consideration. First of all, can you define what that is?
Yeah, I mean, well, an umbrella policy is just a policy that covers, it sort of overarches your underlying policy. So let's say your policy limits on your commercial general liability policy are, say, $1 million. You might get an umbrella policy that's going to cover up to $10 million, and it's going to cover from $1 million to $10 million.
Right. Oh, that's fascinating. And the last part of insurance that you may not think about if you're in business is life insurance. Now, in my situation with Augusta Business Daily and my partner Larry, we've decided that if something happens to him or me, our wives would be part of it. But I could see the benefit of having some kind of coverage too.
Right. So in most of my agreements with multi-member LLCs, so we've got multiple partners, the life insurance is good if, let's say, one person dies, and I have buy-sell provisions in my agreements. And so, like, for example, let's say one person dies, then if you would want to buy out that person, so you'd want to pay their estate for their interest in the business. But maybe the money is not there to pay it. Maybe the business hasn't gotten to the point where it has the money to buy that person out. Yeah. So, but you can use life insurance as funding for that. So say the company receives the proceeds from the policy after the person dies, or sometimes you can have the cross purchase where let's say there's two business owners, where maybe the other business owner gets the proceeds from the policy and then uses that to buy out the other.
All right, throw you a little curveball. You've been doing this for 20 years, and I can't even imagine, probably hundreds of partnerships. Has anything ever gone wrong where there was not something like this in place, and sort of what's the fallout if you don't protect yourself?
Well, there's I mean, I've dealt with a lot of different partnership disputes and a lot of different issues that happen with partners over time. I mean, and it can really just vary from lots of different kind of scenarios. One of which would be not having enough money to purchase the other side out, and sometimes the business could fail, if it doesn't have the appropriate funding and all. So it is important to get those. A lot of times, you'll have, say, someone who is provided the funding for the business, and then somebody else who's doing most of the work. And at the very beginning, it all seems great, and the person who's doing all the work, he's very thankful to have the money to do what he wants to do. But then later on, if, say, 5 years go by and he's like, well, I'm doing all the work. Why should I be giving part of my money to this other person, right?
Sure.
And so they get into a dispute. But now sometimes what the resolution of that is to buy the other person out, and that sort of thing. But,
sure.
But yeah, there's I've seen a lot of good friends who become worst enemies over a business because it's like their baby. It's almost like a divorce.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what they say about
fighting over the.
Sometimes your work wife or husband, you spend more time with them, right?
Right.
Than your real spouse. So I totally understand what you mean. Well, Brian's been through this a lot over the last few decades, and his website is businessattorneylaw.com, and he has a lot of resources for you. You can get in touch with him. He serves clients in Augusta as well as in Atlanta. And both Brian and I are so proud to be associated with Augusta Podcasts. Their website is augustapodcast.com. You can look at some other podcasts, and heck, maybe you want to use this as a way to market your business. Get in touch with David or Chris, first-class people, and they're really onto something, and we're pleased to be part of the process.